Welcome, everyone. It's great to have you all here. You'll have to forgive me. I get a bit flustered when the technology doesn't work, but I'll settle down eventually. So my name is David Farrell. I'm the graduate director of the programs, the master's programs here at SPIRe, and I'm going to briefly introduce all the people who are going to sort of say a few words to you, and then we can open it up for a discussion. After I finish my brief introduction, we'll be joined by Dr. Stephanie Dornschneider-Elkink, who is the head of the Masters in Peace and Conflict. Then Dr. Graham Finlay, who is the Program Director for Human Rights. And then Dr. Stefan Müller, who's the Program Director for Politics and Data Science. And then following them, we're going to hear from two current master's students, Kendra Beletsny and Gabrielle Omondi, who are on two of our programs and sort of can talk about their experience so far. So just forgive me for a sec while I share the screen. There it is. Okay, so hopefully people can see that all right. Um, so I'm just going to give you a bit of a bird's eye view of the master's programs that we have here, and then my colleagues can sort of spend a bit more time talking about the particular programs that they are mostly responsible for. So just to sort of set the scene, first of all, you can see, and you probably notice this if you've gone to our website, that we have a really rather large number of master's programs, MA and MSc. I'll explain a bit more about the difference between those two in a moment. But really, this just reflects the fact that we're a large department. We're the largest department of politics in Ireland, and we come from very different perspectives. So we reflect that in our offerings on the master's programs. Um, if you want to know more about the entry requirements are the same for all of our master's programs. So I can say a little bit about it now, but as you can see, you need to have a second class honour grade one. And if you don't have English as a first language, there are certain English language requirements that you have to meet. But all of this is explained and more on our frequently asked questions section on the website, and the link is there for you to look at after the webinar if you have any other issues you want to check on. Um, I mentioned already that we distinguish between MA and MSc. So this is quite a deliberate distinction that we make. The idea is basically this, that the MA is really much more professionally oriented. It's if you're keeping your options open, you're not sure if you want to continue down the academic path or a policy route, or you're just thinking more broadly about different career options, then you might want to consider one of our MA programs. And that, as you'll see, I'll say more about internships later, that more normally than not means that you have the option to consider doing the internship instead of the dissertation. You have a wider range of modules to choose between. And as I said, it just gives you perhaps a little bit more scope to, be a bit more broad in your perspectives on the masters that you choose. But for pretty much all of our MAs, not in all cases, but most cases, there is an MSc option. And this is really much more research oriented. So we put a lot more emphasis on our MSc programs on dedicated research methods and training. And in almost all cases, there isn't an internship option. You would be required to write the research dissertation. And so this would be really if you're thinking about PhD or research related careers. But I should say PhD and research related careers are not ruled out if you go down the MA track. It's just, it gives you perhaps a little bit more of a boost if you're thinking quite seriously about that at this particular point. Um, we have scholarships. We have a limited number of scholarships, and they're open to you whether you're EU or non-EU citizen. And if you succeed in getting one of these scholarships, it gives you a 50% fee remission, regardless of what fee you rate you're paying. You get 50% of the fee paid by the scholarship. Although, as you can see on the slide, there are other issues to be aware of, some other issues, not least to do with the student centre levy that you would still have to pay. But if you're thinking about it, you have a few weeks still to go before you have to apply, and the deadline is there on the screen, the 15th of June 2026. So just let me say a little bit about, why you might want to be considering SPIRe, the School of Politics and International Relations, for your graduate qualifications. So the first thing to say is we're very diverse, and you'll see this reflected in some of the other colleagues who are about to speak to you. And we represent a large number of different countries. So we've over 17 countries represented in among our staff. And if you do come here for your masters, you'll see that's also reflected in the student body. It's a very diverse body geographically. But diversity is also in terms of the range of specialisms. We pride ourselves in being very broad in our perspectives on political science, international relations. So very broad, very inclusive approach, ranging from normative political philosophy, qualitative approaches, right through to heavy statistics. You'll see a little bit more about that later on. Um, we pride ourselves also in offering a very high quality set of programs. So, all of our staff are research active, very highly research active, and it's reflected in the teaching. So a lot of the teaching that you will get will be from colleagues who are actually writing and publishing in the area that they're teaching you about. And really the quality is reflected in the fact, as you can see from the side of the screen there, that we're now, we're ranked in the top 100 of the best political science departments in the world. So, I think that speaks in itself to the quality theme. Flexibility is another mantra that we really hold to. That we have pretty very clear streams and programs, as you've seen from some of the previous slides, but you have a lot of options in there. You have a lot of options in terms of which kind of modules you might want to take, and also how you might want to map those modules onto your internship or your dissertation later on. So a lot of flexibility is available to you there. We're very global. Not, I've already mentioned the fact that we have a huge diversity in our makeup, but we're very global in the fact that we really want to emphasize the global, the global study of politics. It's not just the politics of this country, for example. It's the politics of countries and places all over the world. So the school really does have an international feel. It feels international. It is international, and you'll get a genuinely international approach in the kind of teaching and learning that you'll experience here. We're innovative. We're continuously updating in terms of how we teach, how we grade, modes of assessment, bringing in new subject matters, making sure that we're fully up to date with the latest research in our fields. And then finally, we're practical. I mean, obviously, if you come here to do a master's, this is an intellectual exercise first and foremost. But clearly, you also will have career objectives, practical career objectives. And we have structures in the school and across the university that you learn about that will help to guide you in making the kind of career choices that you'll want to make. Now, I've mentioned internships a couple of times, and you'll see at the top of the screen there where internships are available. So they're on almost all our MA programs with the exception of the MA in political theory. And then there are on some of our MSc programs, but only on a few of them. And the thing to really say about the internships is we don't, if you this is something that you're thinking about, you just need to be aware we don't offer internships. What we offer is training and support to help identify and secure internships, including good records on previous internships that students have had. So we have some good guidance on this. We are able to help you to develop learning agreements and host agreements. We have all the experience and wherewithal to do all of that, so that we provide a lot of the supports that you would need to secure an internship, which could be in Ireland or could be overseas. There's no particular reason you would have to have it here in Ireland. And really, the only qualification that we would require of you if you go down the internship route is that it must be relevant to the degree program that you're on. But other than that, there's a lot of choice available to you about it. And then my final slide before I pass on to my colleagues, um, just a little bit about career destinations. And I'm sure my colleagues will also say a little bit more specific to their programs. But here's sort of a relatively rudimentary list, but there is more material available on our website about the kind of careers that previous master's students from SPIRe have ended up in. So they range from working in international bodies, working in diplomacy, civil service, public sector kind of roles, working in non-government organizations, private sector jobs, working in all sorts of different private sector roles. Journalists, we've quite a number of journalists who came through our ranks, and academia. I count myself as an example. I did my master's in the 1980s in what would have been SPIRe in those days, and I decided I was going to stay where I am, so they're stuck with me. So that's all I wanted to say by way of introduction. And I'm now going to pass over to my colleague, Dr. Stephanie Dornschneider-Elkink, who will talk you through the Master's MA MSc in Peace and Conflict. Steffi.
Yeah. Thank you, David. It's very nice to meet you all. My name is Stephanie, and I'm the director of the program in Peace and Conflict. And let me just share some slides with you. So this is a very exciting program because it addresses two of the most pressing challenges in the world today, namely peace and conflict. And in this program, what we do is we explore the underlying causes of conflict. For example, when do conflicts break out? And why is it that some countries experience conflicts while others don't? And can we actually predict conflict? We also look at what happens once conflicts begin. How do they develop over time? And how do we move from violence to ceasefires and ultimately to sustainable peace? To answer these questions, what we do is to work with real world data. And researchers have developed a very wide range of data sets on conflict and peace. And what we do in this program is that we show you the large range of data that are available. And importantly, we also show you how to analyze them. And based on that, you will carry out your own research projects, which will be driven by your own research interests. Now, just to give you some examples of projects and papers that students have engaged in with the past. So some, for example, have worked on violence against women as a weapon of war. Then we had a master's thesis on the dynamics of violence in the Syrian civil war. And we also had another master's thesis on who actually joined the IRA. But learning doesn't just happen in the classroom. Sometimes we go out on field trips, and here you see a photo from a field trip to a local mosque. And we went there after we discussed research on Islam, violence, and peace. And we then visited the mosque and afterwards had a discussion with our local guide, whom you see here in the middle of the photo holding a copy of the Quran. We also organize career events and we invite well-known scholars to speak in our seminars. For instance, we had a guest who shared her work on conflict and peace in Indonesia. She gave a talk, and after her talk, she spoke with our students about the careers they were planning to have, and also shared details about her own professional journey. We also have a Center for Peace and Conflict Research. There are always some events ongoing. So here I've just copied two from last term and one from this term. So we host guest talks, films. Can everyone still see my slides? Okay, that's good. That's good. So we host guest talks, film screenings, and conferences also, and you're always very welcome to join. So what exactly are we talking about for this degree? So I think David has already given the main summary here. So this is a 90 credit program, which includes 6 courses and a thesis. 2 courses deal with peace and conflict specifically. The MSc option includes methods courses, as David has already mentioned. And then the MA strand includes research design. Both courses are available part-time. And for the MA strand, you have the option of doing an internship instead of writing a thesis. The entry requirements, I think we've also already heard about them, but just to be sure, they are copied here again. So you need an undergraduate degree with a second class honors grade 1. In the American system, this would be equivalent to a GPA of B. Now, what can you do with this degree after you graduate? Very important question. We invite you to enjoy your degrees, but of course, we are aware that you are thinking about your future. So our graduates actually have gone through a very wide range of careers. Just to give you some examples, so we had one graduate who continued by doing an internship in the United Nations in New York, and he then subsequently worked in Burundi in development work. Then we had another graduate who started working with the German Foreign Office in Tel Aviv. And we had another student who got a job as a project coordinator for a human rights organization in Malta. But more broadly speaking, our graduates work in areas such as public service, journalism, or also data science, especially if you're interested in the MSc strand. Data science would be a nice career trajectory. Now, if you're not sure exactly about your path, that's totally normal and fine, because it's nice to actually explore your options. So my advice would be very simple if you didn't know exactly what to do afterwards. It's to come here, let yourselves be inspired by the courses. You often react differently to material than what you expected. So see what you like, see where your interests are, and then go and speak with our career service colleagues. And of course, I will also be here as your program director to guide you along the way. That's it from me for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Steffi. So without any delay, over to Dr. Graham Finlay.
Yes, well, welcome, and I'm really glad you're interested in coming to UCD. We get tremendous benefit from the diverse students we have from in terms of discipline, in terms of background. I had 26 nationalities in one of my theory classes, and it really, really added to the experience for everybody. And one of the great things about having so many programs is, again, you have the chance to take a variety of modules. Human rights is an interdisciplinary field of its own. It's not just a subset of law or politics, as people often think. Philosophers, lawyers, policymakers, and political scientists were there at the creation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And our program is interdisciplinary in that way as well. There are core modules in theory, political science, and also in law, which will give you a very wide kind of background. But beyond that, you have a number of options as part of the program, but also as program director, I want you to get what you want out of this degree. And so I'm very flexible and open to try to tailor your experience here at UCD to reflect as much as possible what your interests are. And so one of the great things about UCD being so big is you have a lot of choice. And UCD is a really, really exciting place to study human rights. We have amazing amounts of things going on in a lot of different departments, not least our School of Law. And we have a Center for Human Rights, which has a number of talks and activities and conferences, which you'd be really, really welcome at. And then beyond that, Dublin and Ireland is a terrific place to be interested in human rights. We punch as a country well above our weight in terms of international human rights, in terms of UN special rapporteurs, European human rights institutions, many, many Irish people and people who are associated with Ireland there. One of the great things about Ireland is and I can say this as someone with a different accent, to an Irish one. It's really open to people coming from abroad and getting involved and engaging with Irish issues, European issues, international issues. And so if you come here, you'll be from Ireland, right? When it comes to looking for jobs. I was invited to a concert at the U.S. Ambassador's residence a while back, which was put on by 3 different organizations: the Irish Department of Foreign Affairs, Rethink Ireland, which is our social entrepreneurship group, and the U.S. Embassy. And I wasn't sure how I got this invitation. And after I went there, I was no wiser as to how I got the invitation, because I had former students from our program working in all 3 institutions. And they had different national backgrounds. Some were European, some were originally non-European, and some were Irish. So it's a really great place to be from. And there's a lot going on. In terms of, I see there's a question about thesis versus internships. The MSc is slightly unusual in our programs in that it's an MSc, and many of our students have gone on to do PhDs, to work in universities and things like that. Although there's a lot of other things you can do with a PhD. But there's also a lot of internships. There's a lot of practitioners who emerge from the program. And to answer the person's question, with an internship, you will have 90 academic credits, which will be recognized around Europe and around the world. But at the same time, doing a thesis is going to possibly help you in the practitioner world as well. I mean, if you think about what you might be doing for an NGO, it might involve writing reports, which might look an awful lot like our theses. People should not be afraid of the thesis. That said, our students have had some terrific internships both here in Ireland and in their home country, or even in third countries, including Brussels for the European institutions. So that's the sort of background to our programs. I'd be very, very happy to talk to you about it either on Zoom or in person if you're in Ireland or happen to find yourself in Ireland, or by email about any of the questions you might have about what goes into the human rights program.
Thanks, Graham. So straight over to you, Stefan.
Yeah, welcome everyone. My name is Stefan Müller, and I'm the pro-director of the Masters in Politics and Data Science. Let's say you can see my screen there now and my slides. That program was founded in 2020, so we have 6 cohorts, and our students do a really great job in understanding throughout the year how to use data, text, images, videos in order to answer substantively relevant social science and political science research questions. What is special about this program is that it facilitates both students with an undergrad degree in social sciences or with what we call technical degree. So we have quite a few computer scientists, for example, as well, who do the masters in politics and data science. Of course, those 2 groups of students have different background knowledge. But in the first term, they will attend slightly different modules to ensure that they, for instance, with a technical degree, that they learn more about the political science concept, social science concept, research design, whereas those with a social science degree have a higher focus in the first term on introduction to statistics, for example, on programming and so on, to get you up to speed. And this works really well. So Kendra, one of our graduates, can talk about this later on, but I have the feeling really after the first term, everyone has both a political science perspective and a data science and the required data science skills. In this module, in this program, we also have 6 modules. Actually, it's 7 because there's one 5-credit module on data wrangling and visualization, which is really helpful also for the job market, but basically for all modules as well. So you have core modules, introduction to statistics, programming in Python, meaning that you learn 2 programming languages and apply them. We also have sessions on SQL, which is not that much used in academia actually, but it's very popular in industry. So we also always revise our syllabi, our course contents, to ensure that you really have that you have skills that are required for academic research careers, but also in the private sector. Another module that's really unique about this project is called Connected Politics. And here you will be working in a group throughout the entire year with one so-called project coordinator, which is one of our faculty members. And these projects are just excellent. We just had our group presentations last week, and many of these projects actually then were published in peer-reviewed political science journals. Some of the groups also went to conferences in Ireland, but also in the US to present that research. And many of those students had no background in data analytics and data science before they started their degree, and it just shows how much you can learn within a year. This project-based module, Connected Politics, also involves a seminar series where we invite 12 external speakers per year from all over the world. It's a hybrid seminar, and students then get exposed to cutting-edge research, and they're actively encouraged to provide improvement suggestions, to criticize the authors, to think about how to improve the research design, and that works very well. You can write a dissertation or you can do an internship. I'm happy to talk about that that more. So again, even though it's an MSc, you have those internships, this internship option or the option of a dissertation. This is our current cohort. Last Wednesday, they suggested to take a group photo. And that was right after the presentation. So everyone was relieved and everyone was happy because it went very well. And here I just added some of the project themes that the groups were working on. For example, who wins in the European Parliament, comparing legislation with speeches, predicting success of climate legislation in Ireland, really going into every single speech at different stages of the lawmaking process and try to understand which kind of factors drive the success or failure of those bills. There was one project on targeting of aid workers and how that's discussed in UN Security Council discussions, and also how the kind of alliances between countries might influence who's actually talking about those targeting activities of aid workers. There was a project on framing of women by militant groups with Stefan as the project coordinator, but also something on online and offline care platforms, so healthcare and childcare and so on, and how that's being framed. And all these projects were really good and just show what kind of questions you can answer using those skills that you acquire during the year. But it also shows the variety of research topics within our school, because all of those projects are supervised and coordinated by faculty members. One slide on employment. So last week I started working with UCD alumni and obtained like information on where our students worked after their degree. And here just some examples. So for example, consulting activities, KPMG, but also insurances, because data are everywhere. So we have one graduate who works as a machine learning engineer at FBD Insurance, which is not a career path I would have imagined would be relevant for politics and data science students. But now, after having been director of the program for several years, I just noticed how many sectors are actually interested in those skills: government, public bodies, tech companies, financial services, even technical jobs. As one student who works at Zurich Airport as a cloud data operations specialist, public opinion and research and PhD program. So we have graduates working in the Central Bank of Ireland and also in academia. So several of our graduates did PhDs in Ireland, but also abroad, for example, one at Northwestern University in the US. So that's it from me. If you want to learn more, it's all on the website. Here's my contact details, and ask Graham. I'm happy to talk to everyone who's interested in the program over Zoom or in person. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stefan. So before we turn to questions and answers, we should have time at the end to address different questions. As I said, we have two current students, Kendra and Gabrielle, who are working their way through the masters as we speak, and still looking fine for it. So thank goodness. Kendra and Gabrielle, I mean, as far as I have it in the briefing notes, you're going to I'll probably go to Kendra first. You're going to talk a bit about your overall experience here at SPIRe and Dublin in Ireland, you know, your perspectives and from that on that, and if you have been trying to secure or have managed to secure an internship, your own experiences of that. So let's say, Kendra, you start and then Gabrielle follows.
Hi, everyone. So, yeah, my name is Kendra, and I'm a current student on the MSc in Politics and Data Science here at UCD. And I actually started in a very different place. So my undergraduate degree was in BSc Sustainability at UCD. And that degree was built around like the three pillars of sustainability, so environment, economy, and society. But I chose to specialize in the social pillar. So I have a social science background, because I became convinced that if we're actually serious about climate change, we have to deal with human behavior and social systems. So towards the end of that degree, I knew I wanted to work in or around policy, and ideally in the EU context. And I knew that evidence-based policy only means something if people in the room actually understand the data and the tools behind that evidence. So that's really why I applied for the MSc in Politics and Data Science. I wanted to be fluent enough in both worlds, so to understand political institutions, public opinion, but also to work with data and computational methods in a serious way, rather than outsourcing all of that thinking to someone else. So when I started this master's, I had no coding experience. I'd never written a line of Python or R. So if you're listening to this and think, I am not a programmer, can I actually do this? That's exactly how I felt. And yes, you can. The first semester was challenging because there is quite a steep learning curve at the beginning, just getting familiar with the interface. And then there are labs where my code ran and I didn't really understand why, but the more I practice, the more familiar you become with the interface and the lines of codes, and then eventually it just clicks. So if you just keep applying yourself, eventually you will be flying. And now it has opened up a completely new world of opportunities, and I'm really excited to go out into the working world with this new skill set I've acquired. But I also just wanted to say something about the broader UCD environment, because the degree does not just happen in a vacuum. UCD is a large university, as Graham and all the professors have mentioned, actually, and you can feel quite intimidated at first, but it also means that there's genuinely something out there for everyone if you're looking for it. So again, as mentioned by most of the speakers already, the international mix here is one of the reasons why I think UCD is special. So in my classes, I'm sitting next to people from all over the world that have like diversity of background. It really changes the conversation in the classroom, and you hear from like different assumptions, different political experiences, and it pushes you to see your own context differently. And outside of the classroom, there's also a lot happening. So there's over 90 student societies running everything from academic talks to film nights to hiking trips. My personal favorite activity on campus is the community garden and green acre, where you can grow things like root vegetables or even oyster mushrooms. And staff can also join as well, for all the staff here as well, if you're not aware. And that sounds small, but having that physical offline space to like dig in the soil and talk to people who aren't in my program has really been important to balance the screen heavy side of the data science. And another part of my experience that has been surprisingly important is the SPIRe scholarship. So I'm a recipient of that. And one of the conditions is that you work as a tutor. So you're assigned to a module or a class, and you teach small groups of first or second year undergraduates with the professors guiding you on what to cover and what exercises to use. And I did not study political science as an undergrad, so I actually learned a huge amount from the material I was helping to teach. And I also got to see what grading looks from the other side. And now I have a completely new empathy for lecturers and tutors. So it was a strange and rewarding experience to be both a student and a bit on the teaching side at the same time. Yeah, so that's just a little bit about me and my experience this year. There's a lot more to say, but I'm going to leave it there. And thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, Kendra. And straight over to you, Gabrielle. Gabrielle, you're
Sorry,
mute.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Gabrielle. I'm currently doing a master's in international relations. One of the reasons why I picked UCD, I originally was doing politics in the United States, but I'm originally from Kenya, so I've been an international student for a while. I really, because I was studying politics, it was very geared towards the US political system, and seeing the IR, the way that IR was set up here in at UCD, I really liked how broad the modules were, and you could get kind of a little piece of all the other SPIRe departments, and you can pick from that. And yeah, I just really liked how broad and diverse the modules were here. Um, and I currently have an internship. I was able to secure an internship, and my experience in the beginning, it's really rough. You send in your resume to a bunch of organizations, and sometimes they don't get back to you. But in my experience, I think it's good, even if a organization doesn't have an internship that they're necessarily advertising, I think it's a good idea to still message and send in your CV. And that's what I did. I sent in my CV to Transparency International Ireland. They weren't necessarily advertising an internship. I just sent a message to their communications coordinator, and he was able to talk to some people within his organization, and that's how I was able to secure an internship. So it's good to, I guess, I cold email people and just try as many options as possible. I also, part of the reason why I was able to find Transparency International's was looking at UCD's past host organizations. I think that's a very good starting point if you want to do the internship model. Just start there because those have been previously approved by UCD, so you also don't have to worry about, oh, will this work for my degree? Will this be appropriate for UCD standards? So I think, yeah, looking at that list is a good starting point. Um, and yeah, as someone who's been an international student for a while in the States and now here, moving to Dublin in the beginning was a little bit challenging logistically, especially with settling in with like bank accounts and things. But I realized that I just needed a lot of patience and things just things will take time to settle, but just being patient and waiting, and everything will just click and follow. Um, and yeah, Dublin is a really nice city. I think it's a city it's a major city that's more quiet, I would say. So if you want the experience of of city life, but it's not as intense. I think Dublin is a really nice place to live. The people are really welcoming. Irish people are really kind, and I've had the same experience as UCD as well. People are very welcoming and open to hearing other people's perspectives. And yeah, it's a very a place that's very comfortable with diversity, and I really appreciate that as someone who also comes from a very international background. So yeah, that's been my experience here.
That's great. Thank you, Kendra. Thank you, Gabrielle. It's really, really nice to hear that all is going well for both of you. And of course, I'm not surprised, but I'm just always happy to hear that. So we're pretty much bang on schedule. We've got about 20 minutes available to answer questions. So you should feel free to raise any questions you want. I assume everyone can track the questions in the Q&A that were coming in and to varying degrees being responded to. So let me just quickly go through. I believe you're able to just raise your hand virtually and ask a question if you want to.